Pathways Associates, a Northwest Training and Development team, have run the Self-Advocacy Staying Strong survey for 2025 in partnership with our self-advocacy colleagues. Here are some of the things we found out. We last did the survey in 2023. We contacted self-advocacy groups from across the Northwest, and these are the results from the 8 groups we've spoken to. We asked them lots of questions to find out how they are doing. We asked the self-advocacy groups to tell us about the membership of their groups. There was a big difference in the membership size of the groups. The smallest was 20 active members and the largest was 120 active self-advocate members. In addition to active members, some groups also have a big database of people that they're in touch with. Of the 8 groups we spoke to, 4 of the groups are user-led and 4 are not. User-led means that an organisation is run and controlled by people with a learning disability or autistic people. 5 of the groups told us about their board membership. There were 33 self-advocate board members in these groups. 2 of the groups had boards completely made up of people with a learning disability and autistic people. We asked the groups about the staff and volunteers they had supporting them. Groups told us that they had between none and 7 staff members, and these were a mixture of full and part-time workers. Some groups had sessional workers from time to time as well. None of the groups had a self-advocate staff member regularly, but 2 groups plan to have a paid self-advocate staff member this year. Groups told us about whether they had volunteers. 2 of the groups had no volunteers. The highest number of volunteers in other groups was 25. It's important for us to think about the way groups are made up and run, because this will help us to understand the way decisions are made and how the groups work together. The self-advocacy groups told us how their funding is going. 2 groups told us that they'd got more funding because of cost of living increases, and 1 group said that they had much less funding this year. The other group said they had a little less or about the same as they have previously. Sadly, groups told us they had heard of 3 other self-advocacy groups who have needed to close this year. The 8 self-advocacy groups we spoke to told us how they make their money. They do this by working alongside public bodies, with councils and NHS providers and trusts. They work alongside education providers like universities and by running training. Some groups got money through funding bids to do pieces of work and from charity donations. Groups told us that budget cuts make it much harder for the groups to do their work in supporting communities and colleagues. They said self-advocacy groups need to stick together to keep self-advocacy strong in the Northwest. Self-advocacy groups that we spoke to told us about some of the challenges they're facing. These challenges include competition from the big and national advocacy organisations, and linked to this is all the funding going to statutory advocacy instead of self-advocacy in local areas. Groups also told us that they are working hard on understanding how self-advocacy can work really well across lots of different communities to make sure everyone is involved. What next? Pathways Associates and Northwest Training and Development team need to keep on working on the Staying Strong survey. We will talk to our networks and self-advocacy groups about how to co-produce actions that will help keep self-advocacy strong. We will launch the report and share what we found out with our partners. We'll support self-advocacy groups to share stories about how important self-advocacy is in our communities.